Chapter 1369. Mu Yang, shopkeeper, I'm sorry, Before she could finish her words, a man dressed like a playboy suddenly came in. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, "Shopkeeper, take out the best alchemy furnace in your shop and give it to me. I'm going to the Purple Cloud Realm in a few days, and I'm going to present this alchemy furnace to the Flowing Moon Sect's Yarodai Fairy. If it's not good enough, I'll destroy your shop." Mu Yang frowned slightly and turned to look. Flowing Moon Sect, she seemed to have heard of it somewhere. The shopkeeper greeted him with a smile and took back the golden-purple alchemy furnace that he had intended to put back on the shelf. "This is the best alchemy furnace in our shop, a golden-purple alchemy furnace personally made by Master Yin Xiu." The playboy glanced at the furnace and nodded with satisfaction. "It looks okay, barely worthy of the identity of the Yarodai Fairy. How many crystals does this furnace cost?" As he spoke, he was about to take out the crystals from his bosom. "Thank you, 78,000 high-grade crystals." The shopkeeper's smile became more and more brilliant. However, the playboy's movements stopped. His face stiffened, and he immediately shouted, 78,000, and it's top-grade crystal stones? Are you kidding me? How can a mere alchemy furnace be so expensive? Why don't you rob a bank? The smile on the shopkeeper's face instantly changed from brilliant to contemptuous and sarcastic. "You can't afford it, yet you say you want to take the best alchemy furnace in the shop. You don't have money, so what?" As he spoke, he carefully put the alchemy furnace back on the shelf. The playboy was anxious. "Wait a minute, I'll buy this furnace, but I need 7 days to go back and get the crystals. Give me this cauldron first. 7 days later, my manservant will bring you the crystal stones. I'm the young master of the DI family in Green Flame City. I won't refuse your crystals, right?" At first, the shopkeeper was full of disdain and wanted to refuse directly. But when he heard the DI family in Green Flame City and saw the playboy take out a jade card, he couldn't help but hesitate. Mu Yang suddenly stepped forward and said, "Since I can reserve it, shopkeeper, I plan to buy it in 6 days. How about I leave this golden-purple alchemy furnace with you first?" As she spoke, she lowered her eyelids slightly, hiding the cold glint in her eyes. Just now, she finally recalled where she had heard of the Flow Moon Sect. Back in the Yenwu continent, those small fries who chased after him were from the Flowing Moon Sect. It was precisely them and those several aloof so-called fairies who caused him to narrowly escape death, Chang Yu to lose his life in the Yellow Springs, and Xiaobao's whereabouts unknown. Originally, she was not sure whether that group of people came from the Cultivation Continent or the Cultivation Continent. Now, it seemed that she had at least found a target for revenge. "Stinking brat, who do you think you are? How dare you snatch something from this young master?" The dandy pointed at Mu Yang and cursed. Mu Yang didn't even look him in the eye, unhurriedly saying, "Buying things is about first come, first served. I saw this furnace first. If you want to talk about snatching things, it's you who's fighting with me. This young master has already made a reservation. Where are the crystals?" Mu Yang looked at him mockingly, with empty words. "You want to take away an alchemy furnace worth 70,000 high-grade crystals. What DI family's young master? You're the DI family's young master, so what does that have to do with you going back on your word? Do you think the shopkeeper is a fool?" The shopkeeper. Chapter 1370. The shopkeeper grabs the alchemy furnace and steadily puts it on the shelf. "All right, no one can take away this alchemy furnace without crystal stones. If you really want to buy it, then wait until you have enough crystal stones before coming back." Muyan sneers, turns around and walks away. "Stinking brat, wait a minute." The foppish man stops in front of her and glares at her with gritted teeth. "Tell me your name. I'd like to see who dares to snatch my eldest young master DI's things." Muyan looks down at the men's clothes she's wearing and lightly replies, "Yiliang Chen." "Good, just you wait. Wait until this young master finds out 18 generations of your ancestors, I'll definitely let you." Muyan doesn't pay attention to this good-for-nothing foppish man. She gets on the flying boat and leaves. "Ha ha ha, Jun Muyan, didn't you say that you wouldn't buy that alchemy furnace even if you were beaten to death? Now you boast that you'll buy it in 6 days. This sage wants to see how you can gather 78,000 high-grade crystal stones in 6 days. Hearing Qi Huang's gloating ridicule, Muyan's face collapses. Just now, when she heard about the flowing moon sect, she was so angry that she forgot everything. But in just 6 days, how could she earn nearly 80,000 high-grade crystal stones? The next day, there's a public lesson on the 5 elements spiritual power. Muyan was originally most interested in this kind of basic course, but today, when she went with Yun Ruohan and the others to the school of the Emperor Star, she was somewhat dispirited. Yesterday, she counted all her belongings. Including the miscellaneous earnings and all the income from the Tianguang ruins, she only has a few thousand crystal stones in total. Compared to 80,000 high-grade crystal stones, it's like heaven and earth. Even if her talisman drawing skill has become more and more powerful after mastering the identical compatibility contract, if she sells the newly developed talismans, she will definitely be able to sell them for a high price. But the problem is that she only has 6 days. Even if the talismans sell well, it's impossible to earn 80,000 high-grade crystal stones in a short period of time. Today's lesson on the 5 elements spiritual power, she is somewhat absent-minded. After the lesson, Muyan and the others are about to leave. But they're stopped by several female cultivators who hurriedly come forward. The leader of the group was a girl in blue with a cold and elegant appearance. She was dressed luxuriously. "You are from the Alcade branch?" "Yes, what business do you have with me?" Yun Ruohan replied politely. The blue-clothed girl's eyes flashed with a hint of shyness. "We want to know, when is your branch's instructor scheduled for this year's open class?" "Public class?" Yeah. Apart from the most basic ones, the other public classes in Starry School are conducted by the tutors of the various branches in turns. Now that the teachers of the Mizar institution had already given their public lecture, it was time for the Alcade institution to give their public lecture. "We want to know, will the next public lecture be Teacher Mo or Young Master Yun Xiao? When will it be arranged?" If Young Master Yun Xiao could teach me, I would be so happy that I would faint. I like Teacher Mo more. His aura is simply too strong. Just looking at his perfect face makes me want to crawl at his feet and lick him. The corner of Mu Yang's mouth twitches. Young Master and Di Mingju, these two Avilders. There would really be a bunch of diehard fans wherever he went. Chapter 1371. Mu Yang is about to open her mouth and say, "I don't know either." But she hears the blue-clothed woman suddenly take out a bag of crystal stones and pour it on the table. "This is just the deposit. If you can tell me the specific time and let me receive Yun Xiaogong's guidance, I will pay you 10 times more. If you can help me occupy the position closest to Young Master Yun Xiao, I'll double the spar I'll give you." Mu Yang looks at the spar on the table and sucks in a mouthful of cold air. They're all high-grade crystal stones. And there's no less than 100 pieces. 10 times more than 100 pieces, wouldn't that be thousands of high-grade crystal stones? And then double it again. Mu Yang only feels dizzy for a moment. She's worked hard to sell talismans in Tianguang ruins for so long, and only earned this little bit of crystal stones. Just who is this blue-clothed girl, casually throwing away 1,000 pieces of gold just to attend youngest martial uncle's class? The blue-clothed woman's action seems to have opened some kind of valve. The other female cultivators also begin to follow suit, one by one, throwing the Chenkuan bag filled with crystal stones on the table. Although these people are not as extravagant as the blue-clothed girl, each and every one of them also spends crystal stones like flowing water. More than 100 high-grade crystal stones as a deposit. The least of them have at least a few high-grade crystal stones as a deposit. I want to listen to Instructor Mo's class. If Instructor Mo is the one giving the class, you will occupy the first 3 rows for me, and I will pay you 30 times the deposit. Me. I want to listen to both Instructor Mo and Yun Xiaogong's class. I don't need to occupy a seat, as long as I can see the 2 instructors' heavenly faces, it's fine. Stop dreaming. How could Instructor Mo and Yun Xiaogongzi have a class together? Even a lot of male cultivators have gathered around, each of them throwing crystal stones more nimbly than the female cultivators. There's even a man with an unruly expression among them, who throws more crystal stones than the blue-clothed girl. The man's voice is somewhat hoarse, and his speech is very concise. Deposit, 30 times the full amount, after the class, 100 times. The table is instantly piled with chenkuan bags filled with crystal stones. These people are so crazy. It's mainly because the instructor's public class time can be announced or not. Especially for those well-known instructors, even the branch's students often can't sit in the hall for their classes. There was no need to announce it everywhere. No one doubted how popular teacher Mo and young master Yun Xiao's public lecture would be. Now that the public class was about to start, there was no announcement. It was obvious that everyone had no way of knowing the time in advance. If it weren't for Mu Yang and the others from the Yaoguang branch to inform them, it was very likely that they wouldn't have gotten the news even after the class ended. Or if they received the news too late, they wouldn't be able to get a seat and would be kicked out of the classroom. Yun Ruohan hesitated. But we really don't know. Before he could finish, Leng Yumor covered his mouth and dragged him to the back. Luo Yu nodded and smiled. The people from the Xiao Yarrow sect looked at the table full of crystals, their eyes shining with greed. So many Jingsha, so many Jingsha. Slurp. I can't take it anymore, I'm drooling. Even Mu Yang stares blankly. Just now, she was still worried about how to raise 80,000 crystal stones. But she didn't expect that Di Mingju and youngest martial uncle would be able to earn so much just by giving a lesson. Mu Yang's heart is twisting with jealousy. Chapter 1372. Luo Yu rubs her hands, looks at the table full of deposits, then looks at the surrounding fanatical students. Are you sure, just for the start of the class and to reserve seats, you're willing to pay so many crystals? Sure, definitely and definitely. As long as it's for my young master Yun Xiao, what's a mere crystal? If I can let young master Yun Xiao hold my hand, I'm willing to pay with my life. From the moment I saw Instructor Mo, I felt that he was exactly the same as the legendary Di Zun. If I can get Di Zun's guidance, my strength will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Spending these crystals is worth it. Luo Yu smiles until her two dimples are faintly discernible. She happily notes down everyone's name and needs. And Mu Yang also knows that the male cultivator who pays the most is called Shu Ingbua, from Megre's branch, and the blue-clothed girl is called Qin Anlu, from Heavenly Jade branch. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that just by selling the class time, we'd actually earn so much. Luo Yu grabs a chenkuan bag, simply blooming with joy. The chenkuan bag goes around in everyone's hands. Everyone takes out the crystals inside, touches them, and rubs them. In the end, it's Mu Yang's turn. She smiles as she finishes touching, and is about to return it to Luo Yu. But Luo Yu directly pushes it back. Sixth senior sister, these crystals are all for you. The rest of the payment will also be given to you. Mu Yang stares blankly. Why are you giving them all to me? Junior sister, don't you want to buy an alchemy furnace? I heard that it'll cost tens of thousands of high-grade crystals. With these, you can buy the alchemy furnace that you like. Mu Yang frowns. I'll think of a way to buy the alchemy furnace myself. These crystals are for everyone. Aya, junior sister, don't be so polite with us. Leng Yumor puts her hand on her shoulder, grinning as she says, we all know how good junior sister is at alchemy. If you really want to thank us, in the future when we need elixirs for cultivation and fights, you can take them all. Ling Yusheng rolls his eyes. Fourth senior sister, do you know how much a 5th grade elixir and above is worth? Letting junior sister take all your elixirs, aren't you taking advantage of her? TSK, so what if I like to take advantage of junior sister? Little junior sister, just tell me, are you going to cover my future medicinal pills or not? Mu Yang grips the heavy chenkuan bag in her hand, feeling an indescribable warmth in her heart. She was silent for a long time before she said resolutely and decisively, all right, I'll be responsible for all of your medicinal pills and talismans in the future. Here I've earned it. Long live 6th senior sister. After laughing for a while, they couldn't help but sigh. Think about how poor we used to be in the Xiao Yarrow sect. Look at little martial uncle and mentor Ren Mo. They've earned more than our sect can earn in a lifetime with just a single lesson. Sob sob sob, the heavens are unfair. Even Chu Moli was a bit surprised. If we find some of the personal accessories of the two instructors and sell them in the future, one public lecture could earn so many spa. If he were to sell personal accessories and Xiao Xiong, he couldn't help but drool again. However, it was immediately extinguished by a slap. Third senior brother, can you not indulge in fantasy and tell horror stories? Stealing little martial uncle and mentor Ren Mo's personal accessories, do you not want to live anymore? Chapter 1373. As soon as he said that, the joy they felt just now turned into fear. I don't think so. We only sold the time for a public class at most. Chu Moli knocked on the armrest with his fingers and said slowly, how are you so sure that one of the two tutors will give a public class? The remaining 6 people were petrified. No way. Little junior sister, whether or not we can survive this time depends on you. Junior sister, do your best. You must get at least one of them to agree. Don't worry. Junior uncle and tutor Mo love junior sister so much, they will definitely agree. Mu Yang walked into Luo Yunxiao's room with her senior and junior brothers' expectant gazes. Why did she always have a feeling that she was like a bleak wind and cold water? She did not look for Di Mingju first because the Lord was very busy. Even though he was a tutor in Starry School, he was not seen most of the time. He would only stay by Mu Yang's side at night. Mu Yang always felt that it was more unreliable to get the mysterious, arrogant and cold Di Mingju to agree to a public class than to get the little uncle to agree. As soon as she entered Luo Yunxiao's room, she heard intermittent music. Although it was not as demonic as before, but, did the little uncle not practice for a long time? His skills seemed to be rusty. The whole music was like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. The only thing to be glad about was that the little uncle's practice was soundproof, which allowed the creatures in Yaoguang branch to live in peace. The song ended. Mu Yang immediately applauded with all her might. She even praised against her will, junior uncle's skills are really improving rapidly. Luo Yunxiao raised his handsome eyebrows and looked at her expressionlessly. What do you want? Ahum. Mu Yang coughed continuously. Little uncle, I have something to ask you. What is it? Mu Yang said, I heard that the Starry School has a rule that the tutors of each school must hold at least one public class every year. Now it's our Alcade branch's turn. I wonder if it's you or Instructor Mo who's going to teach. When will it be? Public class? Luo Yunxiao frowned and said indifferently, I won't participate. Mu Yang's heart thumped, she suddenly had a bad premonition. Kai Wen, who was at the side, shouted, My Yang, what kind of person is master? It's already a great honor to be able to oversee the Starry School. Haven't you heard that more and more people have decided to apply for the Starry School? It has already far surpassed the Phoenix Sky Academy. This is all thanks to master. After all, Di Mingju's reputation was only spread within the Starry School. However, the fact that Sir Yun Xiao had come to the Starry School was known by the entire cultivation continent. The young Xiozhi that hadn't registered for the academy were almost going crazy with excitement. All of them rubbed their palms together eagerly, waiting for the Starry School to recruit students next year. Feng Tian and the Spirit and Martial Arts School were furious, but there was nothing they could do. It was their fault for not being able to recruit the most handsome man and the best swordsman on the continent, Sir Yun Xiao, as a tutor. Chapter 1374. Haha, how can master attend that public class? Mu Yang struggled. But Starry School has rules. TSK, can Starry School's rules restrict master? Even that teacher Mo definitely wouldn't be attending public classes. My Yang, I know you like quiet. Don't worry, no one will disturb you. Mu Yang was speechless. I'm really scared of silence now. I really want someone to disturb me. Mu Yang put up a last-ditch struggle and said with a flattering smile, Little uncle, look at how handsome you are. You're a genius. Everyone in the Starry School looks up to you as their idol. Everyone is looking forward to attending your public class and listening to your teachings. Luo Yunxiao was not moved by her flattery at all. He poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip before saying slowly, "Oh, and then?" Mu Yang was speechless. "Haha, then of course, little uncle, you don't want to disappoint so many people, right? If you have time, do you want to start a public class?" Luo Yunxiao put down the cup in his hand and looked at her with a faint smile. "How many crystals did you get?" Mu Yang's back stiffened. She laughed dryly. Little uncle, what are you talking about?" Kai Wen was stunned for a moment before she screamed, "Ah, my Yang Yang, you actually sold out Master and Teacher Mo. How much did you sell them for?" "I can only say, you did a great job." "Ha ha ha ha, Master, you won't leave my Yang Yang in the lurch, right?" Luo Yunxiao stood up and asked slowly, "Is Moju going too?" Mu Yang's mouth twitched. She really wanted to know this too. Then, she watched as Luo Yunxiao did not wait for her to answer and directly turned to enter the bedroom. Little uncle, wait a minute. Do you agree or not? How about I give you half of the crystals?" The door closed with a bang. At the same time, Luo Yunxiao's deep and magnetic voice sounded with a hint of laughter. "Whether I agree or not, you will know in 3 days." Mu Yang just came out of Luo Yunxiao's room and was surrounded by the Xiaoyaro school. "Little sister, how is it? Did young martial uncle agree?" "Yes, 6th senior sister. Did youngest martial uncle say when the class will start?" Mu Yan has a conflicted expression as she repeats junior martial uncle's words. "We'll know in 3 days. Does young martial uncle agree or not?" Luo Yu wailed, "Then how are we going to answer those senior brothers and sisters?" Chumoli said thoughtfully, "Why do I feel like little martial uncle's intention is to see if instructor Mo agrees or not? If teacher Mo agrees, maybe little martial uncle will go." Chumoli finished speaking. Everyone's line of sight simultaneously turns towards Mu Yan. "Mu Yang, why are you all looking at me?" "Cough, junior sister, I'll leave teacher Mo to you. Senior sister believes that you won't have any problems." Leng Yumor slaps Mu Yang's shoulder. "Even if it's a seduction, you must get teacher Mo to agree." "Seduction?" Mu Yan is speechless as she looks at the sky. "I didn't expect you two to be this kind of fellow apprentices." In the Xiao Yaro sect, only Yun Ruohan knows that Mu Yan and Di Mingju are engaged. But when the others saw the intimacy between the two, they could guess it. Chapter 1375. Luo Yu grabs Mu Yan's sleeve, her face eager. 6th senior sister, think about the large amount of crystals, think about your alchemy furnace, our future elixirs. You must persuade instructor Mo to hold a public lecture in 3 days. Chu Moli's eyes were burning. It would be even better if the two instructors agreed to sell accessories. Mu Yang wanted to cry but had no tears. She really didn't have the confidence to make Jun Shong agree to attend the public class. Di Mingju was arrogant and proud. How could he lower himself to attend the public class for the stupid mortals he called? After youngest uncle came to Starry School, he had at least given them a lesson. But Jun Shong was only here in name. He didn't even give them a lesson. Leng Yumor grabbed her hand and said with an unwavering face, "Junior sister, senior sister believes that you can do it. The people from the other branches are still waiting for our reply. I will send a message to them now. There will be a public class in 3 days. You must win instructor Mo's heart even if you have to use all your skills tonight." "No, wait a minute, 4th sister." Leng Yumor and Luo Yu ran away quickly. Well, now she had no choice but to do it. Mu Yang presses her temples, only to feel that her head hurts even more. At night, Mu Yang sat on the edge of the table, fiddling with a top-grade crystal and worrying. "Jun Mu Yang, if you really want the crystal, I will take Su Zi's body and snatch it for you." Mu Yang waved her hand impatiently. "Go away, I don't believe I can't even handle Di Mingju." As soon as Mu Yang finished speaking, she felt the candlelight in the room swaying slightly. Then she heard a low male voice close to her. "Yang Yang, how do you want to handle me?" Mu Yang jumped up from the chair in fright. Di Mingju caught her in his arms and carried her back to the chair. This time, his warm lips directly pressed against her delicate earlobe. His warm and moist breath landed on her sensitive skin. Yang Yang, how do you want to handle me?" Mu Yang's body shivered sensitively. The bright red spread from her ears to her whole body, making her gasp for breath. But very quickly, she regained her senses. Slightly pushing away the man imprisoning her, Mu Yan composes herself. Di Mingju, in 3 days, it will be the Yaoguang branch's instructor's turn to give a public lecture. Is that so? Di Mingju says indifferently. What does that have to do with Ben Jun? Mu Yang blinks, her eyes are bright. Aren't you a tutor of the Yaoguang branch? You've been here for so long, yet you haven't attended a single class. Shouldn't you fulfill your duties as a teacher? Di Mingju caresses her face. His tone is calm and indifferent, but his words carry a meaningful ambiguity. Yang Yang, do you want to learn? I can teach you alone every day, every night. He bites hard every single day and night. At the same time, his fingers lightly graze Mu Yan's delicate earlobe. Mu Yang inwardly cursed the rogue. On the surface, he immediately rejected with a righteous expression. I don't want to teach alone. I came to the Starry School to enjoy the atmosphere of the school. Of course, I have to listen to the class with others. Moreover, you're a teacher of the Starry School, yet you don't even attend a single class. How can you explain that? Chapter 1376. Mu Yang is about to cry. Then she pleads softly for a while, but Di Mingju refuses. Mu Yan's eyes turn, and she sighs. All right, since Jun Shongdaran isn't willing to attend public classes, then I can only go and ask Junior Marshal Uncle. TSK, Junior Marshal Uncle is the most handsome man in our cultivation continent. He is the dream lover that everyone in the academy yearns to get close to and look up to. If youngest uncle is willing to attend public classes, then the Alcade branch will definitely be overcrowded. At that time, I'm afraid I won't even be able to get a seat. With that, she stood up from Di Jun's embrace. But just as he stood up, he was grabbed by the waist and pulled back. The man is almost gnashing his teeth sound in the ear. You mean, that pretty boy is more attractive than Ben Jun? Mu Yang's words were clearly saying that if Luo Yunxiao went to class, it would inevitably be overcrowded. Therefore, she settled for the next best thing and came to him. He, the extreme domain sovereign emperor, actually lost to Luo Yunxiao. What most handsome man on the continent? Pooey. That's because I left the Xiozhen continent for too long. In the space, Qi Huang is also jumping up and down and cursing. Bar bar bar, what number 1 handsome man in the continent? Jun Muyan, where do you put this son? This supreme one is the most handsome. Mu Yang resisted the urge to burst out laughing at this moment. She feels that Di Mingju is simply as arrogant and childish as Qi Huang. Isn't that the truth? Mu Yan innocently looks at Di Mingju, beaming as she says, youngest martial uncle's title as the most handsome man in the continent has been around for a long time, and it's publicly acknowledged by everyone in the world. He's more charming than you, isn't that normal? But don't worry, right? I love you the most. Mu Yan Jia's last words not only didn't make Di Mingju feel relieved. On the contrary, it made him even angrier. He's more charming than you. What a joke. In Yan Yan's mind, that pretty boy is actually more charming than her. This was intolerable. Furious to the extreme, Di Mingju instead smiles faintly. More charming than Ben Jun? Let's give it a try. Mu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up. So, you agree to take the public class? Di Mingju casts a sidelong glance at her. You will know the answer in 3 days. Ben Jun will let you see with your own eyes who is the most charming person. Mu Yang, damn. Why was it 3 days later again? Are you guys messing with me on purpose? Should I agree or not? Can you give me a definite answer? Qi Huang, I'm the most charming, all of you get out of my way. Have you heard? The teachers of the Alcade branch will start their classes in 3 days. Really? Really? Was it young Master Yun Xiao or Teacher Mo? No matter which one it is, I want to go, even if I have to die. Alas, but I heard that many people have already spent crystal stones to ask the people of the Alcade branch to help reserve seats. The newly built, Rosy Clouds Garden, of the Alcade branch can at most hold 100 people. I'm afraid that even if we rush there, we won't be able to enter. I heard that Yarogwang branch's people made a lot of money this time, at least tens of thousands of high-grade crystals. It seems that Jun Muyan brought back dozens of Chenkuan bags. TSK, 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 they are so lucky. Not only can they see the two divine teachers, they can also earn crystal stones so easily. Chapter 1377. I'm going to Yarogwang branch to ask if there are any vacancies. In order to see the two mentors up close, I'm willing to pay any amount of crystal stones. I'm going to. This might be the only chance in this lifetime to get so close to Yun Xiaogongzi. Even if I have to go bankrupt, I'm willing. Listening to the discussion of the few people in the square in front of her, Liu Ruoxuan suddenly clenches the book in her hands, her complexion extremely unsightly. The jealousy that has been accumulating in the bottom of her heart is like a poisonous weed that has received nourishment, growing wildly. Jun Muyan, Yarogwang branch again, why are they the ones who get all the good things? Why is it that when she goes to Yarogwang branch, the one who receives everyone's attention isn't her, but Jun Muyan? Liu Ruoxuan's eyes are almost filled with tears. She always had a premonition that her original life should have been smooth sailing, surrounded by pursuers. She used to be so kind, so pure, so crystal clear, but now she can only scheme step by step to live in peace. And all of this is thanks to Jun Muyan. Ruoxuan, why are you still here? A middle-aged man's voice comes from behind. Liu Ruoxuan quickly restrains the emotions on her face, turns around, and shows a well-behaved smile. Instructor Huang, I still have some questions about talisman drawing that I want to ask you. Good. A man with a big belly and an oily face comes forward, his face full of smiles. In this academy, you're the only one who is willing to study talisman drawing with all his heart. However, your talent is really good. In time, your achievements will definitely surpass mine. As he says that, he puts his slippery hand on Liu Ruoxuan's. Deep disgust flashes through Liu Ruoxuan's eyes, but she bears it. Pretending to be innocent, she raises her head and sincerely looks at the middle-aged man. That's all thanks to Instructor Huang's guidance. To be able to receive Instructor Huang's praise, Ruoxuan feels full of energy. The middle-aged man surnamed Huang smiles even more cheerfully. Although he is an instructor, his status in the academy is extremely low. Moreover, talismans are very unpopular, and the one surnamed Huang himself can only draw fourth-grade talismans at most. Therefore, even the public classes are only attended by poor students who can't grab a seat in the outer sect. Now that he was being complimented by Liu Ruoxuan, who was an inner disciple and had a pure appearance, he felt like he was about to ascend to the heavens. Liu Ruoxuan said a few more flattering words that made Instructor Huang dizzy. Then, he pretended to ask casually, I heard that the two mentors of the Alcade branch are about to start a class. I wonder if it will be young Master Yun Xiao or Mentor Mo who will be giving the public class this time? As she spoke, she sighed softly and revealed a very sad expression. Ruoxuan really hopes to get your guidance, but I heard that many people have already signed up for your public classes. Ruoxuan probably wouldn't have a chance this time. But I really want to listen to the teachings of the two mentors. In fact, Liu Ruoxuan did not have much hope that the surnamed Huang would be able to get her a place to attend the lecture. Even if there was only a sliver of hope, she still had to fight for it. This was her chance to rise to the top. Who knew that when Tutor Huang heard her words, he revealed an astonished expression. Who told you that Sir Yun Xiao and Tutor Mo are going to have a public lecture? Chapter 1378. Do you know the identities of those two mentors? Instructor Huang raises a greasy and chubby finger and points to the sky, mysteriously saying, their identities are so high that you can't even imagine it. How could those two come to give a public lesson to a group of little kids? Are you daydreaming? Liu Ruoxuan suddenly freezes in place. Instructor Huang touches her face, and wretchedly turns around and walks away. This time, Liu Ruoxuan doesn't even care about being taken advantage of. She stands there in a daze for a long time, her eyes getting brighter and brighter. Soon, she can't help but let out a loud ha-ha laugh. From time to time, It attracts strange looks from the people around her. After a long time, she stops laughing and slowly lowers her eyes. Her face is full of malice and carefreeness. Jun Muyin, Xiaoyaro School, this time you're dead. 3 days pass in a flash. Early in the morning of the third day, there's still more than an hour before the class starts. The Yaoguang branch is already packed with people. Especially outside Xixia Yuan, where the class is about to start, there are even more people, rubbing shoulders. Everyone has an excited and expectant expression on their faces. They stare at the closed door of Xixia Yuan, wishing they could directly burn it with their eyes. The school's classes are automatically opened and closed at a certain time. There's still an hour before the start of the class, and the door of Xixia Yuan emits a silver light, then slowly opens to both sides. The people waiting outside the door cheered and rushed in. Although these people enter in a mess, they find their seats very quickly. Because almost everyone has the help of the Yaoguang branch's people to reserve a seat. As for those who don't have a seat, they can only stand at the door and watch with envy. Because even if they go in, once the class starts, the array in Xixia Yuan will directly expel them. And the moment of being expelled is still very painful. Every student in Xixia Yuan raises their heads in anticipation, anxiously waiting. But the 7 people of the Yaoguang branch sitting at the very front are unusually restless. Cough, little sister, do you think that young martial uncle and instructor Mo will come? At least one of them should come, right? Luoyu looks back and sees that everyone's eyes are glowing green, and she immediately shivers. If little martial uncle and instructor Mo don't come, will we die miserably? At this moment, Mu Yang is calm and collected. She spread her hands and said, in any case, I've already tried my best. If it really doesn't work, I'll return the crystal stones. What if they're still not satisfied and start a fight? Mu Yang clenches her fists and reveals a bright and beautiful smile. Of course, whoever has the bigger fist has the right to speak. Everyone, damn it, recently junior sister has been too obedient, virtuous, and virtuous. So much so that they had forgotten the title of little junior sister, she-devil. Muyan's attitude seems to affect the others. The people of the Xiao Yarrow sect also relaxed. At this moment, a woman's panting voice came from outside the door. Senior brother Shu, don't wait any longer, you've all been deceived by Jun Muyan and the others. There is no such thing as a public class. The 2 instructors of the Alcade branch never said that they were going to start a class. Hearing the familiar voice, Mu Yang raises her eyebrows and turns to look. TSK, sure enough, it was Liu Ruoxuan again. Chapter 1379. Everyone was also attracted by Liu Ruoxuan's words and turned to look. No public class? What does that mean? Didn't they say that Mr. Yun Xiao and Mr. Mo would have a class today? The one Liu Ruoxuan called senior brother Shu was Shu Ingwa, who had taught them the most crystals. He stood up immediately. Speak clearly. Liu Ruoxuan pressed her heaving chest, looking worried that they had been cheated. She said hurriedly, I just got the news that Starry School has never arranged for the 2 tutors to have a public class. Everything today is a scam. Jun Muyan and the others from Yaoguang branch made up lies to cheat you of your crystals. Wow. As soon as he said that, the entire Dawnperch court exploded. Are you kidding me? Was it a lie? I've already given them dozens of crystals. I've been waiting for today without eating or sleeping, and you're telling me it's fake? Jun Muyan, do you think the 2 tutors will come today? Shu Ingwa's face was livid, and his body was already emitting murderous intent. Liu Ruoxuan continued, think about it. Who are the 2 tutors? Since they came to Starry School, have any of you seen them give a single class? Also, they are very secretive. Has the school ever punished them according to the rules of normal tutors? How can important figures like them open a public class so easily? You've all been cheated by Jun Muyan. Qinan Lu, who had paid the second most crystals, suddenly turned around and glared at Muyan. Jun Muyan, what else do you have to say? This is too much. How dare you lie to us? If this is true, we will not let you off easily. When Liu Ruoxuan came in, Muyan knew that things were going to get worse. However, she was mentally prepared a long time ago, so she was unusually composed and unhurried in this matter. Is it the time now? No, not yet. The girl's voice was unhurried, soft, and pleasant. Coupled with her peerless beauty and shimmering peach blossom eyes, she unknowingly suppressed most of the people's anger. Muyan chuckled. Since it's not yet, why are you in such a hurry? Won't we know in a while whether the two teachers will come to class or not? As she spoke, her gaze fell on Liu Ruoxuan and her lips curled into a mocking smile. If I remember correctly, on Teacher Mo's first day of employment, this Miss Liu pretended to fall and wanted to jump into his arms, right? What? That day, you failed to throw yourself at me in Tai Square, and now you want to use this as an excuse to get a seat. There was a moment of silence in Shishya Garden, and then someone burst into laughter. Obviously, many people recalled the scene when Liu Ruoxuan deliberately threw herself into his arms. That scene, not to mention the male cultivators, at least the female cultivators were extremely disgusted. What they hated the most was this kind of woman who pretended to be pure, but went around seducing men, and liked to use despicable means to frame others. Liu Ruoxuan's face turned pale when she noticed everyone looking at her with disdain. Chapter 1380. Mu Yang lightly knocked on the table and said with a smile that was not a smile, "The Academy really didn't say that the two instructors have the obligation to hold public classes, but did the two instructors say that they would never hold public classes?" Liu Ruoxuan choked. Since the two instructors didn't say that there wouldn't be a public lecture, and it's not even noon yet, what right do you have to say that I'm lying? But you clearly don't have a seat, yet you still refuse to leave. I wonder what your intentions are. Liu Ruoxuan gritted her teeth. Then, tears fell down her cheeks. She turned to look at Shu Yingbua, the male cultivators beside him, and the senior brothers of the Aliath branch. Choking with sobs, he said, "Senior brother, please believe me. I really didn't lie. After I heard about this matter from my tutor, I immediately ran over to inform you guys because I was afraid that you guys had been deceived. That Jun Muyan has accepted so many Jingsha from you, what if she doesn't plan to return it? You have not experienced it, but I have. I have experienced it. The people of the Xiao Yarrow sect are very tyrannical, even the people of the Silver Feather Palace were so miserable because of them. If they want to swallow your crystal stones, what can you do?" Seeing Liu Ruoxuan's pitiful cry, the few male cultivators immediately felt moved. A few people even came out to help her wipe her tears. "Jin'er, don't cry. We all believe you. You are so pure and kind, why would you lie to us?" Saying that, they look at Muyan hesitantly. What if the two mentors don't come when it's time? Mu Yang, then naturally return the deposit. What else do you want to do? What kind of joke is this? Do you think you can just let it go after fooling us like this? With that, one of the male cultivators drew his sword and was about to attack Mu Yang. However, without waiting for him to move, Qin Ju had already taken a step forward and grabbed the hilt of his sword. Spiritual energy surged, and there was a creaking sound that made one's teeth ache. The man's sword immediately distorted and turned into powder. Qin Ju retracts her hand, unscathed, and silently walks back behind Muyan. Then he added, Don't bully little junior sister." Everyone in Shishya Garden was stunned. Mu Yang met the male cultivator's eyes and sneered, "Fool? Did I say that day that the two instructors would definitely start the class? The deposit stayed with me for 3 days and I didn't take a single piece. How can I fool you? If you think you've been fooled, you can take back the crystals you've reserved now. But if you want to seek justice, no problem, let's fight with our fists." Qin Ju clenched his fists at the right time, making creaking sounds. The faces of the male cultivators beside Liu Ruoxuan alternated between green and white, but they didn't dare to say anything. Mu Yang looks around and says unhurriedly, "I'll ask again, who wants to take back the Jingsha? Take it now and leave Shishia Yuan." The few male cultivators looked at each other in dismay. But if they really wanted to take back the crystals they had reserved, they would be a little hesitant. It's only because it's almost too hard to come by this time, and Muyan's attitude is too strong. They couldn't tell if she was lying or not. What if they took the crystal and the two instructors came to class? Then their hard-earned opportunity would be gone. Liu Ruoxuan's heart was filled with hatred. Jun Muyan, this cunning woman, is actually so eloquent. She reversed the situation with just a few words. But it's too early for this woman to be complacent now. Chapter 1381. Just then, there was a sudden clamor outside the door, followed by an old man's low shout. "Get out of the way! The Academy Supervisory Committee is carrying out official duties, everyone get out of the way." The crowd unconsciously separated into two. They saw an old man with eagle eyes leading a group of Academy Supervisory Committee members striding in. Luo Yu approached Mu Yang and curled her lips. "It's actually an old acquaintance." Luo Yu, the last time Wei Tianming came to Yaoguang branch, he brought a group of Jindan stage deacons, and he was one of them. Mu Yang saw that Jindan stage deacon vaguely exchange a look with Liu Ruoxuan, and she couldn't help but slightly narrow her eyes. It seems that they didn't come with good intentions. That Jindan stage deacon went straight to Mu Yang, and coldly said, "Jun Mu Yang, Lung Yu Mo, Lan Luoyu, you are suspected of using mentors to deceive your fellow students. This action has already violated the rules of the school. Now, please come with us." Lung Yumo's face darkened, and she was about to explode, but was pressed back by Mu Yang. Mu Yang looked at that Jindan stage deacon, and unhurriedly said, "Excuse me, how did I deceive my fellow students? How did I violate the school rules?" The Jindan stage deacon coldly snorted, "The school has already stipulated that the two mentors don't need to hold public classes. You misled your fellow students, took the opportunity to accept crystals, and obtained ill-gotten gains. Isn't this a violation of the school rules?" Saying that, his cold gaze swept over the people around him. "Did the people of Yaoguang branch obtain ill-gotten gains from your hands?" Yes. Several people standing next to Liu Ruoxuan immediately took out a yellow piece of paper, reporting to the deacon, "This is the proof that Jun Mu Yang and the others left behind after receiving the crystals as a deposit. We were very eager to listen to the two mentors' classes, so we didn't hesitate to pay a huge sum of money. I didn't expect that this was a lie." The Jindan stage deacon took the paper and opened it, and his face revealed a sinister smile. "Jun Mu Yang, what else do you have to say?" Mu Yang curled her hair with her fingers, and her expression was indescribably languid and careless. "What else can I say? They gave us crystals, and we provided information to help occupy seats. This is a transaction of the transaction, why should we explain it? If you want an explanation just like that, then why don't you ask the people from the other academies who helped to occupy or sell their spots? If you want to punish them, shouldn't you punish them first?" The Golden Core deacon was stunned for a moment before he angrily said, "How can this be the same? How are they different?" Muyan sneers, "These are all private transactions, things that have been agreed upon by convention. How can people from other branches do it, but my Yaoguang branch can't? Does this deacon think that there's no one in the Alcade branch?" The Golden Core deacon's face trembled with anger, but he didn't know how to refute. Liu Ruoxuan immediately steps forward and says, "Jun Muyan, don't twist words and force logic. Although the senior brothers and sisters from the other branches also sold information, the public lectures were real. However, the two instructors of the Alcade branch didn't know how to give public lessons. Shouldn't you be punished for swindling your fellow disciples' spa stones?" Muyan coldly glances at her, "Didn't I tell you? If you want to get your deposit back, please go ahead. I want to get the crystal back. I also want to get the crystal back. What two mentors are teaching, it's clearly a lie. That's right, if it wasn't a lie, why would the people from the student council come over?" Chapter 1382. Muyan isn't annoyed in the slightest. She directly takes out her Qiankuan bag and returns the crystal stones to them one by one. But before she returned the crystal stones, she smiled and said casually, "Let's be frank. If the person who gets the deposit today wants to ask the Alcade branch for help in the future, the price won't be 10 times or even 100 times more." The person who came to collect the deposit hesitated for a moment. But when she looks at the supervisor standing on the side, she is immediately convinced that Muyan and the others are swindlers. Liu Ruoxuan looked at the motionless Shu Yingbo and said in a sweet voice, "Senior brother Shu, why are you still in a daze? You paid the most spar, don't be cheated by this group of people." Shu Yingbo frowned, but slowly sat back in his seat. "I don't care about those crystals." What he was more concerned about was whether he could listen to Teacher Mo's lecture. Even if there was only a sliver of chance. The blue-clothed Qin Anlu also sat firmly in her seat after some hesitation. In order to be able to see young Master Yun Xiao from a close distance, she didn't mind throwing away 1,000 crystals, so what did a mere few hundred crystals count as? Very soon, 1/3 of the people in Shixia Garden were gone. Mu Yang looks at the people still sitting in their seats, and the corner of her mouth can't help but twitch. What kind of magic do these two Avilders, Di Mingju and young martial uncle, have? Even if there was only a sliver of hope, these people were still willing to pay crystal stones to see them. TSK. Third senior brother was right. If they could sell some accessories for the two of them, wouldn't they be rich? Muyan repeatedly shakes her head, shaking away the dangerous thoughts in her mind. The Golden Core Deacon sneered, "Don't think that this matter is over just because you returned the crystal stones. You deceived your fellow disciples, this matter will definitely not be left at that. Come with us to the Education Commission." Mu Yang raises her eyebrows and is about to speak. Liu Ruoxuan suddenly shouted, "It's time." It was already the time. The two mentors haven't arrived yet. This proves that Jun Muyan is lying. She's using the two mentors to deceive everyone. This time, the entire Shixia Garden, including those who did not get their deposits back, exploded. "Jun Muyan, speak clearly. Will the two instructors come to class? So it really was a lie. Damn it, return my crystal stone. How dare you use young Master Yun Xiao? Alcade Branch, just you wait, I won't let you off." A whip suddenly appeared in the Gold Core Deacon's hand. He waved it fiercely and shouted, "Men, tie up all the people from the Alcade Branch and bring them back to the Dean's Council for questioning." The member of the Academic Council standing behind the Golden Core Deacon responded and immediately stepped forward. Liu Ruoxuan revealed a complacent smile. But at this moment, a gentle but powerful force suddenly swept through the entire Perching Dawn Garden. In an instant, it was as if a violent gale had swept through, sweeping away all the violence. It also caused everyone's clamor and voices to disappear without a trace. Then, a low, gentle, and magnetic voice came from outside Dawnperch Court. "What's with all the noise so early in the morning?" Everyone turned to look at the door, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They saw a man in plain clothes, holding a book in his hand, slowly walking in from outside. Chapter 1383. Just looking at it would cause one to be intoxicated and intoxicated. Many of the female cultivators in Dawnperch Court covered their mouths to prevent themselves from screaming. His face was flushed, and his eyes were glazed over. He looked like he was about to faint. Young Master Yun Xiao. God, it really is young Master Yun Xiao. They actually saw a living young Master Yun Xiao at such a close distance. This day was worth it no matter what. When the people of the Xiaoyaro sect saw Luo Yunxiao, they almost cried tears of joy. Sob sob sob, youngest martial uncle really doted on them. In the nick of time, little martial uncle still rushed over to save them. "Little master. Instructor Luo, they said that 6th senior sister lied to her fellow disciples. They said that you weren't going to hold a public class at all. They even wanted to take 6th senior sister away to punish her. Mentor Luo, quickly help 6th senior sister clear her name." Luo Yu immediately complained loudly when she saw little martial uncle. Luo Yunxiao's gaze swept over Muyan and fell on the Gold Core Deacon. The man's gaze was calm, and his features were as clear as a painting. But being stared at by such a pair of eyes, beads of sweat began to appear on the Golden Core Deacon's forehead. Luo Yunxiao said slowly, "You want to take my student away?" The Golden Core Deacon grits his teeth and tries his best to maintain his composure, replying to young Master Yun Xiao, Our dean received a report saying that Jun Muyan is swindling people. Taking her away this time is only a routine investigation. Luo Yunxiao's lips curled into a sneer. But when he did it, his expression was still as gentle as beautiful jade, making people unconsciously intoxicated. I'm the one who agreed to attend the public lecture today. How am I cheating? As soon as he said that, the entire Dawnperch court exploded. Those who had made reservations for Luo Yunxiao were so excited that they almost fainted. But people like Xu Yingbua, who came for Di Mingju, show a regretful expression. Leng Yumor put her hands on her hips and laughed. Did you hear that? Our little instructor Luo is going to have a public lecture. Those who don't have a scheduled class, why don't you get out? Perching Dawn Court is about to be cleared. Cold sweat dripped down from the Golden Core Deacon's forehead. He almost couldn't withstand it and wanted to retreat. And Liu Ruoxuan's face was completely ugly. She had never imagined that Luo Yunxiao would actually attend a public lecture. Impossible. How was this possible? With Luo Yunxiao's identity and status, how could she lower herself to attend a public lecture? Jun Muyan, this slut, why is her luck so good this time? Just as he was thinking, Leng Yumor suddenly stepped forward and sent Liu Ruoxuan flying with a slap. Why are you staring at my junior sister so fiercely? You scared my little junior sister. Do you believe that I will dig your eyeballs out? Luo Yu, on the other hand, waved her hand at the Golden Core Deacon. Why are you still standing here? Didn't you hear that we're about to start class? Everyone thought that the people from the Academic Supervisory Board would retreat in embarrassment. However, he didn't expect that the Jindan stage manager would be sweating profusely. After hesitating for a while, he gritted his teeth and said, even if young Master Yun Xiao agreed to attend the public class, the information that Jun Muyan sold also included Instructor Mo. With Instructor Mo's esteemed status, how could he possibly attend a public lecture? In the end, she has deceived others, and even used it to obtain ill-gotten gains. Today, I can let the others of Yaoguang branch go, but I must take Jun Muyan with me. Luo Yunxiao's eyes darkened, and a bone-chilling expression flashed across his usually warm face. Chapter 1384. No, but Mr. Yunxiao, please rest assured. We are only taking her away for investigation. We will not hurt Muyan. Mr. Yunxiao, you are famous and powerful. We cannot defeat you, but you are in the Starry School after all. If you don't follow the school rules, it will be too unreasonable. Don't you think so? Muyan squinted, her eyes shining brightly. The Golden Core Deacon's attitude was too strange. It was as if his original intention was to take her away, not to punish her for cheating. Luo Yunxiao curled his lips and laughed softly. I want to see who can take her away under my eyes. However, before he could finish his words, a voice suddenly rang out. The Golden Core Deacon's face suddenly turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. A voice as cold as ice and as proud as the sun came from the entrance of Shixia Court. Who allowed you to take her away in my territory? Everyone turned to look at the door. Then, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. A man in purple robes appeared out of thin air. His face was between light and shadow, indistinct, but completely unable to conceal his chiseled and handsome facial features, as well as his graceful bearing that looked down on the world. His brows weren't as gentle as Luo Yunxiao's. They were picturesque and exquisite, but they were elegant and refined. The moment they saw him, everyone present could not help but feel an urge to kneel down and worship him. Xu Yingbua and the rest stood up and stared at the newcomer, their eyes full of admiration and yearning. There were quite a few girls who were so excited that tears streamed down their cheeks. However, their mouths were wide open, but no sound came out. The entire Shixia court fell into a strange silence. Even the people from the Xiaoyaro sect were shocked. They thought that someone as high and mighty as Mentor Mo would not come to public classes even for their junior sister. They did not expect him to actually come. He really came. Only Muyan curled her lips and revealed a faint smile. In fact, she had thought that youngest uncle might not come. But she had always believed that Di Mingju would come. This man had never left her alone when she was in trouble. No matter how shameless her requests were, this man would tolerate her, spoil her, and fulfill them for her. The Gold Core Deacon's eyes widened as he watched the noble man walking towards him. Finally, his knees buckled, and he knelt on the ground with a thud. Greetings, Instructor Mo. However, Di Ming-ju doesn't even spare him a glance. His line of sight turns and sweeps over Muyan, finally meeting Luo Yunxiao's line of sight in the air. There seemed to be lightning and thunder in the air. Di Ming-ju sneers. He fiercely brushes his sleeve, and turns to look at the Gold Core Deacon. The hand behind his back grasps Muyan's small hand and firmly squeezes it. Mu Yang felt a burst of pain, but because he couldn't cry out in public, his face couldn't help but twist. She can't help but fiercely scratch Di Ming-ju's palm. The Tsunda Jun Shongdaran seems to be pacified by this scratch. He clasps Muyan's hand in his palm, but their hands are covered by his wide sleeves. Chapter 1385. The Golden Core Deacon's entire body shivered. I wouldn't dare. He vaguely knew the identity of this teacher Mo. Even Principal Di Yudao did not dare to offend such a person. Liu Ruoxuan clenches her hands into fists, looking at Di Ming-ju's pillously handsome face, as well as the way he's protecting Muyan. The jealousy in her heart was like millions of ants gnawing at her heart. Finally, she couldn't help but take a step forward and raise her voice. Mentor Mo, you're protecting Muyan like this. But do you know that Jun Muyan is using you to deceive you? She's using you and teacher Luo's banner to collect money outside. Di Ming-ju turns his head and coldly looks at Muyan, his expression very unfriendly. So be it if they were using his name. They even used Luo Yunxiao's name. Could it be that his reputation as the Polar Domain sovereign was not enough? Mu Yang laughs dryly with a guilty conscience. She has a nagging feeling that she will be settled later on, and then die miserably. When Liu Ruoxuan sees Di Ming-ju's expression, she thinks that he's angry. His eyes immediately flashed with a hint of joy. He stepped forward and said, Instructor Mo, I believe that Jun Muyan and the others also have their own difficulties in doing this. But no matter how difficult it is, they can't do something that would ruin the reputation of the two instructors. Their behavior is so vile. If we don't punish them a little, what if they push their luck in the future? Di Ming-ju's line of sight turns, and for the first time, it finally falls on Liu Ruoxuan's face. Liu Ruoxuan looked at the pair of bottomless ice blue eyes and the handsome facial features. She was so excited that her whole body was trembling. She tries her best to reveal a charming and shy smile, moving a little closer to Di Ming-ju. She opens her mouth innocently and eagerly. Mentor Mo, I didn't mean to say bad things about Jun Muyan and the others, I just really don't want so many people to be deceived. The corners of Di Ming-ju's lips slowly curve up. His appearance was already extremely beautiful, and when he smiled, his eyebrows were even more dazzling. But what flashed through everyone's mind was not dejection or amazement. Instead, it was fear and trembling from the depths of his soul. Liu Ruoxuan's charming expression suddenly froze on her face. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Her clothes were also soaked in the rain. At this moment, she heard the man's cold voice. Who in this world has the right to punish Benjuan's woman? When Yanyan's name comes out of your mouth, Ben Jun feels disgusted. Liu Ruoxuan's eyes widened in shock. What did Teacher Mo mean by that? Jun Muyan, that slut, is Instructor Mo's woman? No. Impossible. She didn't believe it. However, before she could react, she felt a sharp pain on her face. She felt as if someone had slapped her in the face, causing her teeth to fall loose. Liu Ruoxuan didn't even have time to cover her face and scream before she was sent flying and fell heavily outside Shixia Court. At the same time, the Golden Core Deacon and the members of the Student Council were also thrown out. As soon as the Golden Core Deacon landed on the ground, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body softly fell to the ground. He crawled up from the ground, inspected his body, and immediately let out a shrill scream. It turned out that at that moment, His golden core had actually shattered, and his cultivation had once again fallen to the Anedia stage. Chapter 1386. Although the other members of the student council did not experience a drop in their cultivation, their faces were pale and they were on the verge of collapsing, unable to get up for a long while. With this kind of injury, it was impossible to recover without resting for 10 days to half a month. When the people in Shixia Yuan see this scene, they not only don't feel fear or sympathy, but instead look at Di Mingju with eyes full of worship and awe. Only those who had just gotten back their deposits were panicking and regretting their actions so much that their intestines turned green. Bracing themselves, they walk in front of Muyan and embarrassedly say, "Miss Jun, we were wrong just now. We actually believed that Liu Ruoxuan's nonsense. Please give us the certificate of attendance. We are willing to pay double the price. We really admire these two mentors and hope to listen to their teachings." As they say this, they can't help but glance at Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao. They hoped that the two teachers would stand up for them. But who could have known that Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao, one is cold and indifferent, the other is light and breezy, as if they simply don't care about anyone in the world. Unexpectedly, he gave Mu Yang full authority to take charge of his own affairs. Mu Yang looks at these people and says unhurriedly, "I've already said what I just said very clearly. From the moment you requested a refund of the deposit, you no longer have the right to remain in Chixia Garden. Class is about to begin, please leave as soon as possible." "Jun Muyan, you, don't go too far." One of them said irritably, "There are 2 instructors in the class, what does it have to do with you? You're just buying and selling information and reserving seats for us. How are you qualified to decide whether or not we can attend the 2 instructors' classes?" As soon as the man's voice fell, 2 voices sounded almost at the same time. "If I say she's qualified, then she's qualified." Everyone turns their heads, and discover that the ones speaking are unexpectedly Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao. Everyone is immediately dumbfounded. In his mind, he's guessing Jun Muyan's identity, as well as her and the 2 instructors' identities. Those who returned the deposit still wanted to cause trouble, but Luo Yunxiao waved her hand. He channeled his spiritual power into the array around Shixia Garden. In an instant, those who were not qualified to attend the lecture were directly expelled from Shixia Garden. The rest of the people in the garden were all excited and rejoicing. From time to time, his gaze would drift towards Jun Muyan and the people from Yaoguang branch. In his heart, he thought that even if it was to see his idol more, he absolutely could not offend these people. He had to curry favor with all his might. However, very soon, Shixia Garden fell into an eerie silence again. Because everyone realized that there was still a big problem that hadn't been solved. There was only 1 classroom here, but there were 2 instructors. So, who was the one giving the public lecture today? After a moment of silence, the students below immediately started arguing. Some of them were diehard fans of young Master Yun Xiao. Someone was determined to get Teacher Mo's guidance. In the beginning, because of the presence of Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao, the 2 sides have restrained themselves, paying attention to their image. In the end, she had forgotten everything and only cared about protecting her idol. The 2 sides almost broke into a fight. Mu Yang is dumbfounded. She wants Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao to mediate. Who would have thought that these 2 old men would be so calm and unperturbed, as if it had nothing to do with them? He turned a deaf ear to the chaos in front of him. Mu Yang presses the throbbing veins on her forehead and roars, "Stop arguing." She immediately feels her scalp go numb. "Ahem, little Instructor Luo, this way please." Luo Yunxiao didn't make things difficult for her. She just looked at her deeply and turned to go to Purple Bamboo Courtyard. Those diehard followers of young Master Yun Xiao immediately followed after him. The Shixia Garden had already lost 1/3 of its students. Now that it was split into 2, neither classroom was full. Chapter 1388. If we knew that the two mentors were willing to open a public class, we should have sold more places. Muyan grins, revealing a faint smile. It's not a pity, it's not too late for us to go out and auction the places now. As soon as these words come out, the people of the Xiaoyaro sect are shocked. Little sister, are you serious? Auction it on the spot. Aren't you afraid that the two mentors will settle accounts with you later? Muyan, hihi. This lady is now full of lice and doesn't itch, and I don't need to worry about debt. In any case, some narrow-minded man will settle accounts later, so it's better to fish enough now. She shows everyone a disdainful smile. How about it? Do you dare to do it with me? Do it. Why wouldn't I? Lung Yumor slaps her thigh and laughs. Ha ha ha, let's go to the auction now. I reckon that the group of people hanging their necks in Yaoguang branch will go crazy with joy when they hear this news. The people of the Xiaoyaro sect go to the place where the crowd has gathered. They don't care if their conversation will be heard by the two mentors inside. Chu Moli looks at the direction of the little sister's departure, then looks at Purple Bamboo Courtyard and Shixia Yuan. He can't help but smile and shake his head. Little junior sister is little junior sister. Think what people don't dare to think, do what people don't dare to do. Hehe, interesting, really interesting. Muyan has never listened to Di Mingju's lecture. Moreover, she can't imagine what Jun Shongdaran will look like when he stands on the stage and gives a lecture. So, Muyan stays back in high spirits. Shixia Garden was quiet. Everyone's eyes sparkled as they stared unblinkingly at the man who was as handsome as a god on the stage. They're afraid that they'll suffer a loss if they don't look. Everyone is waiting for the man to use his low, sexy, and indifferent voice to talk about cultivation. However, the next moment, Di Mingju's action makes everyone stunned. They see him raise his hand. In an instant, a blue light spreads from his palm. The clear and crystalline light instantly turns into a whirlpool. Before everyone could react, it has completely enveloped the entire Shixia Yuan. The people in Shixia Yuan suddenly feel their hearts palpitate, and they're panicking. This blue light doesn't bring them pain, but it makes them feel like everything has been seen through. But the one who was the most shocked was none other than Mu Yang. Because the moment the blue light spread, she realized. This is a domain, Di Mingju's domain. However, this domain was completely different from hers. It seemed light and formless, illusory and blurry, yet it seemed so real that it could deeply engrave itself into one's soul, bones, and blood. Compared to her domain, Di Mingju's domain is indescribably powerful, so powerful that she simply can't see the end of it. Moreover, she had an illusion, such a strong, oppressive domain of her nerves. It's just the thin edge of Di Mingju's domain, it's just the tip of the iceberg. At this time, Di Mingju slowly opens his mouth. Hold your breath and focus your mind, revolve your spiritual power, and enter the great illusionary land to experience it. How much you can learn depends on your own abilities. The people in Shixia Yuan look at each other in dismay, completely unable to understand what Di Mingju is saying. But when a die-hard fan faced their idol, the biggest advantage was that they would trust him brainlessly and carry out his orders meticulously. Thus, the hundreds of people present all closed their eyes, slowly circulated their spiritual power, and emptied their minds. The next moment, they felt that their spiritual consciousness had entered a wonderful realm. Chapter 1389. There were also people who experienced a dreamlike life, an illusory yet real life. Some even saw themselves ascending to immortality, the grand scene of the great path being proven. Feeling the fluctuations of Di Mingju's domain, Xing Lang hurried over. Seeing this scene, he was so jealous that his entire body and soul were about to distort. Bastards, these stupid mortals, how could they enter Jun Shong's great illusionary land? Even the most basic great illusionary land was something that many immortals on the Shoshin continent yearned for but could not get. He also wanted to enter Jun Shong's great illusionary land. Why were the Starry School's little brats treated better than him? Mu Yang also immersed her consciousness into the great illusionary land. The next moment, an impassioned zither sound resounded in her mind. Like a stormy sea, or a torrential rain of thunder. Golden spears and armored horses, swallowing mountains and rivers, the entire sea of consciousness seemed to be turned upside down. Faintly, from the direction of Purple Bamboo Courtyard, there was also a clear and cold energy surging in, intertwining with her consciousness. After a moment, a second zither song appeared in her mind. Like resentment or admiration, like weeping or complaining, like a dream or infatuation. Clearly as gentle as water, but mixed with soul-penetrating loneliness and desolation. Two zither sounds madly intertwined in her mind, one advancing and one retreating, one strong and one weak. Mu Yang only felt a roar in her mind, as if it was about to explode. Her forehead was also faintly beaded with sweat. In the depths of her sea of consciousness, there seemed to be a terrifying energy about to surge out. Mu Yang suddenly opened her eyes, escaping from the great illusionary land created by Di Mingju. Di Mingju's gaze had never left her from the beginning. Seeing her open her eyes now, he couldn't help but frown slightly. For those who immersed themselves in the great illusionary land, the longer they stayed inside, the higher their talent was. Naturally, the more benefits they could obtain. And Mu Yang was actually the first to wake up. Xing Lang gloated in the dark. Looks like this woman Mu Yang's talent in the domain is only SOSO. Di Mingju grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms. His voice was cold, but with a trace of concern. What's wrong? Mu Yang frowned slightly, but for a moment, she couldn't tell what had happened in that instant. She was a little scared, but also a little regretful. What he was afraid of was that if that power had erupted, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Regrettably, she could feel the power and change that power could bring her. Unfortunately, it disappeared all of a sudden. No. Did the other force belong to youngest martial uncle? Could it be that junior martial uncle was also using the great illusionary land to teach? If she went to youngest martial uncle's place to meditate now, would she be able to stimulate that power? Thinking of this, Mu Yang became restless. I'll go to the Purple Bamboo Courtyard to take a look. Di Mingju narrows his eyes, a dangerous light spilling out from the bottom of his eyes. Jun Muyan, say that again? Mu Yang looked around and saw that everyone in Shixia Garden was immersed in the great illusionary land. Not a single one of them had woken up. She immediately smiled and touched the man's tight and perfect abdominal muscles. She tiptoed and kissed the corner of his lips. Be good, don't mess around. I really have something to prove. Pausing, she used a slightly seductive and husky voice to say, I know that Jun Shong wants to settle accounts with me after the autumn. Then why don't we record this as well and settle it together tonight? Chapter 1391. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. The two instructors are godly people. The things they teach can only be understood and not explained in words. The students that come out of Shixia Yuan and Purple Bamboo Courtyard become more and more excited as they talk, each one of their faces flushed with happiness, as if they've picked up a rare treasure. And the people waiting outside are both jealous and angry at the same time, itching to go back in time to 2 hours ago. Even if they go bankrupt, they still have to snatch a spot. Among this group of people, the most jealous, the most regretful, and the most angry, are definitely the group of people who rejected the deposit. After the two instructors' lesson at Alcade Branch has ended, Liu Ruoxuan hurriedly boarded the flying boat to escape. However, before she could fly to Aliath Branch, dozens of flying boats suddenly catch up to her, surrounding her. Someone even directly uses a flying boat to crash into Liu Ruoxuan's flying boat, almost causing her to fall from the sky. Liu Ruoxuan has no choice but to control the flying boat to descend, stopping at a mountain col not far from Aliath Branch's outer courtyard. She just staggers down from the flying boat, when she is ruthlessly slapped to the ground. Slut, what else do you have to say? If it wasn't for you, how could I not be able to attend Yun Xiaogong's lessons in the future? Scoundrel, I finally got the chance to get close to Instructor Mo. If it wasn't for you, slut, sowing discord, making me misunderstand Muyan and the others, how could I end up like this? Liu Ruoxuan covers her face, looking at the people who are glaring at her like tigers watching their prey, tears streaming down her face, her heart filled with terror. There are female cultivators and male cultivators among these people. Those male cultivators were still tender and gentle towards her just today, but at this moment, each and every one of them are fiendish, as if they want to skin her alive. Junior brother Li, who was competing with me, originally had a lower cultivation than me, but because he attended Instructor Mo's lesson, he actually overtook me in a short 2 hours. Originally, the one who obtained this spot was me, so the one who had a substantial increase in cultivation should also be me. That male cultivator's face distorts as he speaks up to here, suddenly taking a step forward and ruthlessly kicking Liu Ruoxuan's chest. It's all because of you. It's all because of you that I lost this chance to break through. You're a honey-mouthed jinx. I must have been blind to have trusted you. Liu Ruoxuan was in so much pain that she curled up like a shrimp and let out a painful cry. But the anger of these dozen or so Shouja who couldn't attend class didn't feel comfortable at all. Liu Ruoxuan was so anxious that she could no longer care about shame. She tore off her clothes, revealing her red undergarment and snow-white shoulders. She cried like a pear blossom in the rain, sobbing and trembling. She was weak and beautiful like a little flower in the wind and rain, causing people to unconsciously want to take pity on her. Senior brother, I really didn't mean to deceive you. It doesn't matter if others don't believe me. But please, you must believe me. Woo woo woo. She raised 3 fingers and swore to the heavens. I, Liu Ruoxuan, swear to the heavens that if I really have the intention to harm senior brothers, then let me be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. As soon as she said this, the male cultivators revealed expressions of bewilderment. Chapter 1392. She had yet to finish her sentence. Her collar was suddenly pulled up by someone, followed by a few slaps on her face. Believe. Ha, I'll let you know what it means to believe. Even now, you're still trying to frame Muyan. If not for you sowing discord and causing us to misunderstand Muyan, we wouldn't have lost the chance to listen to the lecture. Liu Ruoxuan's face swelled up like a pig's head from the slaps. What pitiful, pear blossom in tears. The few male cultivators who originally wanted to protect her, upon seeing her ghastly appearance, couldn't help but take a few steps back in disgust. Tears and snot flowed down Liu Ruoxuan's face as she defended herself. It's true, Jun Muyan really hooked up with Mentor Mo. Mentor Mo told me personally that Jun Muyan is his woman. Slap 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 slap. Another few slaps landed on her face. You're about to die and you still want to frame Muyan. Don't you know that Starry School doesn't allow teacher-student relationships? Or do you think we'll let you go just because you dragged Muyan into this? Sob sob sob. No. Liu Ruoxuan's pig face was sobbing and shaking her head. Senior brothers, save me, please save me. The female cultivator who slapped her suddenly sneered. Ha, don't you like to pretend to be a white lotus? A white lotus grows out of the mud without being tainted. I wonder if junior sister Liu has this trait too. After saying that, she grabbed Liu Ruoxuan's hair. Ignoring her cries, she dragged her in one direction. The others hurriedly followed after him. Along the way, there were people who came up and kicked Liu Ruoxuan to vent their anger. As they moved forward, the air was filled with a pungent smell. It turned out that this was a cesspool. The people in the Starry School's outer yard were only in the body refining realm and needed to eat grains that could not be completely converted into spiritual qi. Naturally, they had to excrete. And this cesspool was where the excrement was accumulated. Liu Ruoxuan saw the cesspool right in front of her and widened her eyes in horror. She opened her mouth and was about to shout, no, but before she could say anything, she was thrown down from the sky. Then, something disgusting, along with a foul stench, gushed into her mouth and nose. Ha ha ha, aren't you a white lotus? Let me see if you can get out of the cesspit without being stained. I've long found this woman an eyesore. Who is she trying to show off her coquettish appearance all day long? In Yuheng Courtyard, she would hook up with every martial brother, not rejecting anyone. But when these men saw her, it was as if they had lost their souls. It's disgusting. The male cultivators from the Aliath branch all showed awkward expressions and took a few steps back. Liu Ruoxuan wanted to climb out of the cesspool, but someone picked up a bamboo pole and hit her hard again. Her mouth and nose were filled with stinky feces and urine, and the hatred in her heart was accumulating bit by bit. Her eyes were wide open as she stared at him. He clearly remembered the faces of these people in front of him. In the future, she would make them pay for the humiliation she had suffered today 1,000 times over. However, the one she hates the most is still Jun Muyan. If not for Jun Muyan, she would still be that doted upon little junior sister. She was a pure and kind white lotus whose hands were not stained with the slightest bit of filth and blood. Chapter 1393. The sky gradually darkened, and there was no one around the cesspool. Liu Ruoxuan climbed out of the cesspool with difficulty. She could no longer stand on her feet, nor could she circulate the spiritual power in her body. She could only crawl little by little towards the flying boat in the mountain ahead. I will not admit defeat. How can I, Liu Ruoxuan, fail so easily? When I become successful, I'll skin them alive, pull out their tendons, and drown them in this cesspool. There's also Jun Muyan, slut. Bitch. Jun Muyan. I won't let you off. The pain I've experienced today, I'll make you pay back 10-fold, 100-fold. I curse you all to die a horrible death, a horrible death. At this moment, a young man's voice came from the darkness. Ah, you scared me to death. So it's a human. Are you okay? Liu Ruoxuan stopped cursing and looked up, but she suddenly met a pair of eyes that were as clear as water. Under the moonlight, the person's face could not be seen clearly. However, he could vaguely tell that this was a young man with a clear mind. Especially his eyes, they were like pearls made of colored glass. It was so clean and clear that no one would suspect that this youth had any bad intentions. Liu Ruoxuan had just experienced the malice of a group of people. At this time, facing such a clean and pure youth, her guard had unknowingly dropped. She raised her head and looked at the youth with a pleading gaze. Her voice trembled as she said, "Save me, please save me." All of Liu Ruoxuan's storage items were taken away. She didn't have any pills, talismans, or clean clothes. Due to the excessive consumption of spiritual power, he could not condense it, so he could only rely on his willpower to crawl back bit by bit. Now that she had met this young man, if he was willing to give her a pill and a set of clean clothes, the young man revealed a worried expression. "Senior sister, what's wrong? Did someone harm you?" As he spoke, he took out a pill from his bosom and gave it to Liu Ruoxuan. "Take this spirit supplement pill first and recover your strength." Liu Ruomin hurriedly took the pill and swallowed it. His empty dantian quickly produced a rich spiritual power. Liu Ruoxuan was ecstatic and showed a grateful expression to the youth. But in the next moment, he felt a sharp pain in his dantian. Then, he felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. You. Liu Ruoxuan pointed at the youth and screamed, "Why do you want to harm me?" Young man, Su Zi slowly rose to his feet, a clear smile still on his face. However, his eyes had become bottomless. "Although I don't know where you came from, I actually happened to hear you cursing Big Sister. How can I let you live? Hehe, it wasn't easy for me to get this pill. It can make a person's spiritual power grow crazily until their dantian and meridians can no longer bear it and their whole body explodes." "You piece of dog shit, enjoy yourself here." After that, the young man leisurely turned around and continued to walk in the direction of the Alcade branch with light steps. Liu Ruoxuan helplessly watched the youth's figure disappear. She wanted to call for help and beg for mercy, but there was no response. The hatred in his eyes turned into tears of blood. His blood-stained fingers dug deep into the soil. He didn't even notice that his fingernail had been flipped off and blood was flowing out of his hand when he grabbed onto a piece of skeleton. Chapter 1394. No, she's not reconciled. How can she reconcile with this? She should be in high spirits and be the center of attention. How can she die here like this? Do you want revenge? Just then, a faint, hoarse voice suddenly comes to Liu Ruoxuan's ears. The voice is neither male nor female, like a ghost. When it rings, it carries a bone-chilling chill that can calm people's bones. But it can ignite the deepest desire in the human body. Who, you? Are you a human or a ghost? Liu Ruoxuan endured the pain in her body and looked around. But she didn't see a single figure. But soon, she found that the bone in her hand is emitting a faint green light. The green light shines on the blood on her hand, looking particularly strange. You don't need to know whether I'm a human or a ghost. You just need to ask yourself, do you want to become stronger? Do you want revenge? The voice is faint and hoarse, but it's extremely bewitching. Liu Ruoxuan presses the wound on her abdomen. Her face is completely distorted, and she almost roars, "Yes, I want to take revenge on those bastards and that bitch Jun Muyan, no matter what price I have to pay, as long as I can make them die a horrible death." Hey, that's right. As long as you sacrifice your soul to me and help me do things, I can help you achieve your wish. Liu Ruoxuan's eyes reveal a struggling look, but it is soon replaced by the desire for success and revenge. As long as I can take revenge, I'm willing to help you do anything. He, ha ha ha. I've waited for hundreds of years, and finally, ha ha ha, Evolution Moon Sect, Ziyun Realm. This is a secret room hidden underground, and a complicated array is set up in the center of the secret room. But it's not crystals that maintain the array, but the blood of spirit beasts that are riddled with holes. In the center of the array, a dark red bell hangs. But no matter how those spirit beasts struggle, the bell doesn't move, nor does it make the slightest sound. But suddenly, the red light on the array shines brightly, and the bell begins to shake violently, making a buzzing sound. The spirit beasts around the formation howled miserably and struggled with all their might. But not long after, their blood is sucked dry, and they die. The door of the secret room was smashed open with a bang, and several people hurriedly ran out. Seeing the violently shaking bells, they all revealed expressions of wild joy. Found it, the most important ingredient has finally been found. Ha ha ha, if we hand over all the spirit herbs we found earlier to Fairy Qingwan, our Flow Moon sect will definitely obtain great benefits. The white-bearded old man's eyes were filled with excitement. Even his voice was slightly trembling, looking at the direction of the bell. It should be in the azure blue world. Quick, immediately order the Flow Moon sect to search for it. Yes, sect leader. They quickly retreated, leaving only the white-bearded old man and a tall, thin middle-aged man. Master, what is this catalyst? It actually took us so much effort to find it. What kind of medicine does Fairy Qingwan want to refine? The white-bearded old man in the lead stroked his beard and narrowed his eyes. What Fairy Qingwan wants to refine is the magnificent quicksand that even Tianyi men have already lost its inheritance. Magnificent quicksand? What kind of pill is this? Chapter 1395. I only vaguely remember that Master once said that this is the Tianyi sect's unique secret medicine. If it is really refined and taken, it can take away another person's appearance, talent, and even fate. It is a very terrible elixir. Take away fate. The tall and thin man gasps, is there really such a sinister medicine in the world? What is the guiding drug? The white-bearded old man glances at the bell. The guiding drug is a very small number of people who are favored by the heavens and have a special fate. And this guiding drug is the most indispensable thing to refine, magnificent quicksand. The tall and thin man frowns, since it is a person favored by the heavens, if we offend it, won't it, phut. The white-bearded old man disdainfully laughs, what favored by the heavens, it's just a nice way of saying it. In fact, these people are just the descendants of the medicine men left behind from the ancient war. It is unclear whether it is a blessing or a curse to obtain a special fate. And if they encounter a true heavens-favored one, they will only what? Nothing. The white-bearded old man takes back the words that he is about to blurt out and chuckles. In short, although this medicine man is rare and seems to have an excellent fate, There is nothing to be afraid of. The tall and thin man can't help but laugh. Master is right. What heaven's favored one, won't he soon become a medicine man, and we will refine him into an elixir to bless our flowing moon sect's ascension? This so-called special fate will benefit us at that time. The two look at each other and can't help but reveal an excited and expectant smile. They believe that as long as they respectfully offer the guiding drug and the elixir to Lung Qingwan, the flowing moon sect will certainly have a meteoric rise. And they can immediately ascend to the Shoshian continent. Yarrow Guang branch. After the class, Mu Yang and the Xiao Yarrow sect's people gather together to count the crystal stones they have received. When the number is out, the 7 people are crazy with joy. There are 91,621 pieces of upper-grade crystal stones. Upper-grade crystal stones. Ha 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 ha, we're rich again. Junior sister, how many crystal stones do you think your alchemy furnace will cost? Quickly put it away and buy it tomorrow. Later, all our elixirs will be taken care of by you. Mu Yang smiles and puts the 78,000 crystal stones into her space. She doesn't take any of the other crystals. Instead, he shared it with his fellow disciples. Yun Ruohan and the others were not pretentious. The few of them happily divided the crystals, each of them smiling so widely that their teeth could not be seen. Since we're so happy today, I think we should celebrate. That's right, we need to drink and roast meat to celebrate. Ha 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 ha, let's celebrate our riches. Long live junior sister. I've been in the carefree sect for so long, but this is the first time I've felt so rich. The sky was getting dark, and the people in the other courtyards had already fallen into silence because of the curfew. However, the public square of the Alcade branch was bustling with noise and laughter. Luo Yu jumped onto a fake mountain and shouted, "Next, everyone has to do something that they are not good at. 6th senior sister, embroider. 4th senior sister, draw." After reading the list of things that the people of the Xiaoyaro sect were going to do, the audience burst into laughter again. Then, Luo Yu coughed lightly and continued, it's not over yet. Little Aunt Master, sing. Instructor Mo, let's dance. Chapter 1396. Youngest martial uncle singing. Could he perform all 5 tones? Di Ming Ju is dancing. Cough 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 cough. Forgive her for her inability to imagine. Di Ming Ju has a dark expression on his face, his entire body is filled with an austere killing intent. He turns around, flicks his sleeves, and is about to leave. But Muyan pulls him back, hugging his waist and not letting go. She holds back her laughter and looks up. Di Ming Ju, today is our Yarrow Guang branch's celebration. You're also a member of Yarrow Guang branch, how can you not participate? Di Ming Ju sneers faintly. Ben Jun is not. He was the Polar Domain Sovereign Emperor, not a member of the Alcade branch. Nonsense. After saying that, Jun Shongdaran breaks into a run. However, he was pulled back by Muyan. Muyan's eyes are bright and her face is full of craftiness. Even if you're not a member of the Yarrow Guang branch, you're still my family. I am a student of the Alcade branch. Since you are my family, you are also a member of the Alcade branch. Or could it be that Jun Shongdaran wants to go back on his words and abandon me? Di Ming Ju, he gnashes his teeth. Jun Muyan, don't push your luck. Mu Yang smiles mischievously. She's still pushing her luck. Darling, don't be shy. Mu Yang smiled and shook his hand. Isn't it just dancing? I believe that no matter what it is, it won't stump Lord Jun. Di Ming Ju faintly looks at her for a long time, and suddenly hooks up his lips, revealing a meaningful smile. Good, Ben Jun will participate. But Yang Yang, don't regret it later. Regret? What did she regret? Although she thinks so, Mu Yang suddenly has a bad premonition. Could it be that she had shot herself in the foot? Soon, the people of the Xiaoyaro sect all showed off the things they weren't good at. Muyan directly embroidered a bunch of mandarin ducks so that even a chicken couldn't be seen. Lung Yumor did not draw anything, but she made her body colorful. It was still Chu Moli who was the most ruthless. He roasted the meat with his bare hands, and directly roasted a dark dish that emitted a foul stench. Even Mu Yang, this cooking waste wood, can make better things than him. Finally, it was the two instructors' turn. However, they looked at each other in dismay, and no one dared to rush him. On the contrary, each and every one of them uniformly turned their gazes towards Muyan. Muyan coughs lightly and pushes Di Mingju, "Mentor Mo, it's your turn." Di Mingju slowly gets up. Under the moonlight, her peerless face was even more stunning and dazzling. Step by step, he walked towards Mu Yang and extended his hand towards her. That pair of icy blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the girl in front of him. There was stubbornness, passion, and dominance in his eyes, but most of all, there was a bone-piercing gentleness. Muyan feels like she's almost drowning in those serene eyes. Her mind went blank for a moment, and then she unconsciously reached out to him. In the next moment, Muyan's entire body has already soared up into the sky, carried by Di Mingju as they dance in the air. Under the moonlight, a handsome man embraced a delicate girl. The two figures leaned against each other, hugged each other, and blended together. There was no music, but the two of them seemed to be following the beat. Sometimes they jumped, sometimes they spun, and sometimes they leaned back. The sparkling moonlight plated a layer of silver light on the two of them. It was so beautiful and so compatible. People couldn't help but feel envious and yearning. The people of the Xiaoyaro sect were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that Mentor Mo's dance would be like this. Chapter 1397. At the end of the song, the two figures slowly descend from the sky. Mu Yang is still dizzy until the hair on her temples is gently pushed aside. The man's deep and husky voice sounds against her earlobe. "Yang Yang, are you satisfied with Benjun's dance?" Mu Yang suddenly comes back to herself, only to find that everyone in the Yaoguang branch is looking at her. Her face immediately turns red, and she wants to hold her forehead and sigh. She really lifted a rock to drop it on her own foot. "Young martial uncle, it's your turn next." "That's right, Instructor Mo is dancing, how can you not sing?" "Hehe, we're all from the same school. Even if young martial uncle sings tone deaf, we won't laugh at you." Luo Yunxiao holds a wine glass in her left hand and a barbecue in her right hand. Other people's movements when eating meat are always bold and vulgar. But when he does it, it's elegant and noble, gentle like jade, like a banished immortal, handsome and otherworldly. Hearing the jeering, the young man slowly raises his long eyelashes, and his indifferent eyes sweep over the loudest people. In a split second, the noise comes to an abrupt end. Luo Yu and Lung Yumor shrunk their necks in embarrassment, not daring to make a sound. Just then, Chu Moli suddenly smiles and says, "If young martial uncle is too embarrassed to sing alone, how about letting little junior sister accompany you?" Yes, little junior sister's zither skills are superb. If little junior sister accompanies you, it can certainly cover up a little of young martial uncle's tone deaf. Mu Yang is dumbfounded. What did I do? Why am I the one who's lying down again? However, thinking that she can listen to young martial uncle sing, she can't help but reveal an evil smile. She stands up and dusts off the dust on her hands. "Okay, I'll accompany young martial uncle." Saying that, without waiting for Luo Yunxiao to refuse, she sits on the ground, takes out the Tianmo Qin and gently plays. The sound of the zither resounds, but Luo Yunxiao is still silent and indifferent. Just when everyone thinks that young martial uncle won't open his mouth no matter what, suddenly, a low and warm sound that can make one's ears pregnant resounds. It's not a song, just a soft humming. It's also like the murmur of an elf that humans can't understand. But this music is so vast and clear, as if it can directly hit the depths of people's souls. Even Mu Yang is dumbfounded. He raised his head and stared blankly at his junior martial uncle, who was as gentle and elegant as a banished immortal. They couldn't believe that this song came from his mouth. Wasn't this a joke? If he could sing such a beautiful song, how could he play the zither with such a magical sound? The sound of the zither gradually faded, and the singing also stopped as if it had sensed it. The square was silent for a moment, and then it exploded. "Heavens, Instructor Mo, martial uncle, Are you guys even human? Is there anything in this world that can stop you? In the past, I've never been convinced by anyone, but towards Teacher Mo and Little Martial Uncle, I truly admire them from the bottom of my heart. However, Chu Moli's eyelids drooped slightly. In a low voice that only he could hear, he said, "Isn't the one that should be admired the most junior sister?" Ling Yusheng raised his head and revealed a bashful smile. "The second wave of meat is done, and the wine is warmed. Aren't you coming to eat?" "They're coming. Aya, Xiaowu is still the most virtuous, I love you the most. Instructor Mo, junior uncle, come, 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 drink some wine and eat some barbecue." Chapter 1398. Yun Ruohan raised her glass, her eyes shining, her voice resounding. "The luckiest thing in my life is to enter the Xiaoyaro school, get to know you guys, and be taught by Little Uncle Master and Mr. Mo." Muyan gently swirls the wine cup. "May we live forever in this life and this night, free and unfettered forever." The others raised their wine glasses and laughed loudly in response. "May we live forever in this life and live freely forever." Even Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao raised their glasses. The expressions on their faces didn't change much, but there was a faint smile and warmth in their eyes. In the space, Qi Huang, who could not eat barbecue and drink, was throwing a tantrum. But after Mu Yang threw him a new shirt, he happily ran to try it on. The young man, who had changed into new clothes, sat on the grass in the space. He looked at the night sky outside, smelled the fragrance of wine, and listened to the young girl's crisp laughter. He hugged the soul-peeping chess in his arms tightly, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curved up. Such a moonlight, such a night, such laughter, and such wine. No matter how hard one's heart was, no matter how cold one's shell was, no matter how rough one's past was, softness would be eroded, and one would sink into the peace of the world at this moment. So, no matter how difficult the future was, the hell of Manata. Even if the future was unpredictable, life and death, love and hate were not up to one's control. This night's moonlight, this night's barbecue, this night's wine, and this night's promise, no one would ever forget it. Ever since the class, Mu Yang felt like there was a force in her body that wanted to break through. She had a feeling that if this force broke through, she might be able to reach the top of the Linglong Tower. "Little sister, did you know? Ever since the public class, the Starry School students have been divided into two factions. Every day, they argue about who is better, Mr. Mo or Little Uncle Master. Hey, sixth sister, what do you think? Who do you think is better, Mr. Mo or Little Uncle Master?" Mu Yang touched her chin. "I don't know who is better, but as a teacher, they are definitely not qualified." "Heh." Muyan snorts lightly. These two people have been holding the title of tutor for so long, but they've only attended one public class, and they haven't even spoken a word. He didn't even give us any special guidance courses. Do you think this is how a teacher should act? Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Little Martial Uncle still taught us for 2 days. Teacher Mo really didn't give us a single lesson. TSK, is Little Martial Uncle teaching us? That's clearly torturing us. TSK, TSK, TSK. As expected, he doesn't have a mentor. Just as everyone was talking happily, two voices suddenly came from not far away. "You guys want to go to class so badly?" Therefore, because of this discussion, the Alcade branch's miserable days began. The only exception was Suzy, who was in poor health and could not be tortured. The other 7 people, including Mu Yang, are tortured to the point where they wish they were dead. No matter how much they cried and begged for mercy, the 2 instructors did not relent at all. On the other hand, Star Wolf, who was hiding in the dark, watched the progress of the few of them. His initial feelings of jealousy slowly turned into amazement. Chapter 1399. Xinglang didn't expect that the other 6 people of the Xiaoyaro school were also 1 in 10,000, only slightly inferior to Jun Muyan. Even Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao only punished them at first. But slowly, They started to show their true colors. One day, Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao didn't confront each other in the Dawnperch garden of the Yaoguang branch. Instead, they each released an energy vortex. As soon as the vortex appeared, the people of the Xiaoyaro school were shocked. It was very similar to the energy fluctuation they felt on the day of the public lecture. But what was different from that day was that the energy wave today was extremely pure and vigorous. If a comparison had to be made, it was just a gurgling stream on that day, but today it was a vast ocean. Moreover, it had shrunk the ocean to the size of a door. But even if they just stood beside the vortex door, without any leakage of energy, the fluctuation was enough to shake the spiritual power of the people of the Xiaoyaro school, making them unable to control themselves. Chu Moli took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "This is a domain," and it was a domain so powerful that they couldn't even imagine it. On the cultivation continent, there were many people who could use a domain. But they had never heard of someone who could release and compress a domain at will, let alone seen one. Just how strong were Teacher Mo and Little Martial Uncle's powers? But Instructor Mo's blue domain seemed to be a bit more powerful than Junior Uncle's dark red domain. Luo Yunxiao nodded and said, "Yes, this is a domain. You go into these two domains and feel it." The people of the Xiaoyaro school looked at each other, not quite understanding what she meant. But they still tried to enter the two domains very obediently. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the 6 people staggered out of the domain. Their faces were pale and they were on the verge of collapsing. In someone else's domain, the feeling of having one's life and soul completely under someone else's control, making one feel like an ant, was truly terrifying. Remember what you just learned. In the next month, what you need to do is to activate your own domains. Activate their domains in 1 month. The people of the Xiaoyaro school opened their eyes wide and couldn't believe their ears. In the entire Xiaoyaro school, the only one who could activate a domain was their junior sister. On the cultivation continent, there were only a handful of people who could activate a domain before reaching the nascent soul stage. Yet, Little Martial Uncle and Teacher Mo wanted them to activate their own domains within a month. How was this possible? As if he can see through their thoughts, Di Mingju sneers, "The people taught by Ben Jun, if they don't even have this bit of ability, then they'd better get out of here as soon as possible." Kai Wen, who was in Luo Yunxiao's embrace, also popped her head out. That's right, if you can't activate your domain within a month, don't ever say that you're Master's disciples, lest you embarrass Master. Luo Yu raised her hand with trepidation. What if I can't activate the domain within a month? Luo Yunxiao raised her glass and took a sip. You don't want to know the consequences. The 6 people look at the smiling and gentle Little Martial Uncle, then they look at the expressionless Di Mingju, who is looking at them as if they are ants. They scattered like birds and beasts. No, even if they had to hang themselves for a month, they had to activate their domains. Otherwise, they would have died miserably a month later. Chapter 1400. Seeing that the other apprentice brothers have left, Muyan also wants to slip away. Stop. Di Mingju's low and cold voice comes from behind. Who said you can leave? Mu Yang turned around. I've already activated my domain. Di Mingju snorts lightly. The most basic domain. Muyan, Di Mingju, I'm telling you, if you attack me again, I'll divorce you. So what if it was the most basic domain? The most basic domain wasn't a domain. Seeing that the girl in front of him is glaring at him in anger, a smile flashes through Di Mingju's eyes. He takes a step forward, wraps his arm around Muyan's waist, and forcefully pulls her into his embrace. Be good, don't mess around. Come into the core of this lord's domain. This lord will help you consolidate your domain. Muyan stares blankly, but she doesn't have the time to ask. Kai Wen said unwillingly, Instructor Mo, how do you know that my Yanyan's domain attribute is the 9 glorious sun? Perhaps, like Master, she belongs to the 9 luminaries moon. If my Yanyan's domain belonged to the 9 lights lunar, she would be able to follow her master back to the core area of the nether realm. Luo Yunxiao's long eyelashes fluttered as if she was moved by Kai Wen's words. Di Mingju's gaze turned cold, sneering, "Stop daydreaming. Yang Yang will only follow Ben Jun back to the polar domain." Mu Yang, however, had a puzzled look on her face. 9 glorious sun, 9 glorious moon, what exactly do they mean? Di Mingju reaches out and rubs her head. Everyone's innate domain attribute is predestined at birth. Just like how there were many different types of spiritual roots, there were also different types of domain attributes. The clearer and purer the attributes of the domain, the more powerful the domain would be. On the other hand, if the attributes of the domain are blurry, even if the domain is upgraded, the strength won't increase by much. The 9 luminaries sun and the 9 luminaries moon are the 2 most common innate domain attributes in the Shoshian continent. You don't need to understand this for the time being. You just need to release your divine sense and enter this Lord's domain. Yang Yang, you are destined to belong to the 9 glorious suns and my polar domain. Mu Yan nods in confusion, then obediently listens to Di Mingju's words and enters his icy blue vortex. As soon as she enters the vortex, Mu Yang only feels a rumbling in her mind. Then, the sound of the zither rang out like raging waves. This feeling was too familiar. It was the impact of the domain that she had felt during the public lecture that day. However, today's impact was far greater than the last time. If one were to say that the domain impact during a public lecture was just like a waterfall that flowed straight down, then, at this moment, the impact of the domain could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. Fine beads of sweat begin to seep out from Mu Yan's forehead. His body and even his soul were being controlled and forced to submit. But at this moment, the restless energy in her body suddenly rushed out. That's right, it wasn't an eruption, but rather a sneak out. Soon after, it greedily and excitedly starts to devour Di Mingju's ice blue domain. It's just that Di Mingju's domain is really too powerful. Therefore, that force only bit the tip of the iceberg before shrinking back with a burp. The ice blue vortex surges, and Mu Yang wipes the sweat from her forehead as she comes out of Di Mingju's domain. She's stupefied the whole time. What happened just now? Yang Yang? Di Mingju holds her hand and promptly checks her domain. But under this inspection, Jun Shongdaren's expression becomes extremely unsightly. Chapter 1401. This meant that Mu Yang's domain was not a pure, 9-glory sun. Di Mingju's brows deeply wrinkle. The emperor of the polar domain, the divine empress, and the hall masters of the various halls were all pure domain attributes of the 9 glorious suns. And Mu Yan doesn't belong to the 9 glorious suns. If she wants to become the mistress of the polar domain in the future, she will inevitably encounter a lot of difficulties. But very quickly, Di Mingju stretches out his brows, his eyes brimming with insufferably arrogant determination. So what if Yang Yang didn't have the 9 glorious suns domain? His wife in this lifetime will definitely only be Jun Mu Yan. Who could control it? Who would dare to control it? Kai Wen couldn't help but burst into laughter. Beauty, beauty, you are indeed destined to belong to our 9 luminaries lunar. Master, hurry. Quick. Let my Yang Yang enter your domain. Mu Yang looks at Di Mingju's gloomy face, and the domain that little martial uncle has revealed to her. She can't help but blink. She felt that things might not be so simple. Sure enough, an hour later, Mu Yang comes out of Luo Yunxiao's domain. That sneaky power was her silvery white domain. He took another bite out of Little Aunt Master's dark red domain. At this time, not only was her domain full, Mu Yang felt that she was also full. It's not the 9 glory moon either. How could it be? Why isn't my Yang Yang the 9 lights lunar? This isn't right. My Yang Yang, what is your domain? Could it be that it's a trash domain with vague attributes, the lowest grade that doesn't even have the possibility of advancing? Otherwise, how could he not be marked by the 9 planets sun and 9 planets moon? Di Mingju sees Mu Yan's pale complexion and her blank expression. He thinks that she's disappointed and worried. He couldn't help but embrace her, his voice gentle. Even if it's the most heterogeneous domain, As long as I'm here, I'll definitely make you stronger. I won't let you be inferior to. Before Di Mingju could finish speaking, Muyan's body suddenly sways, and she spits out a mouthful of blood. Then he fainted. Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao reach out their hands almost at the same time, wanting to catch Muyan. However, Luo Yunxiao's hand only stretched out halfway before she finally retracted it. Di Mingju holds Muyan tightly in his arms. Grave and indifferent, the aloof man's face no longer has its usual calmness. Yang Yang, what's wrong? Damn it. Could it be that his domain had injured her? Muyan grips Di Mingju's hand in a death grip, her body spasms and trembles incessantly, her mouth uttering hoarse moans. It hurts. Mu Yang herself was extremely able to endure pain, but at this time, she couldn't help but cry out in pain. One could imagine how intense the pain and torture was. Yang Yang, don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you. Di Mingju clasps her hand, about to pour his divine power into it. However, in the next moment, both his and Luo Yunxiao's expressions changed. Then, an icy blue and a dark red light shone from their bodies. Like a star exploding, it suddenly spread in all directions. Rumble. Rumble. The entire Yaoguang branch, and even the starry school, shook, and the sun and moon changed color. Even in the Danyang mountain range, thousands of beasts were roaring and rocks were collapsing. This kind of phenomenon was like the world was about to be destroyed and reborn. It was terrifying. However, this phenomenon only lasted for a few breaths before disappearing without a trace. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.